Hey, it's Patrick, and welcome to the video that's going to show you the 4 basic movement patterns that are essential to moving that we do in everyday life that we already do. Except, when we go to the gym, a lot of times what I find is that people want to do a machine and sit on a machine and push in a certain direction, which is a bad idea. And every machine is a bad idea unless you're in some type of therapy with a physical therapist. It's just something you should be doing because we don't move in those directions. So let me just give you an example. If I'm sitting down on a machine and I'm doing a chest press or a shoulder press, first of all, that's a fixed linear pattern. So I can't move out of that position, right? I'm stuck in that position. So number one, that's a big hazard on my shoulder joint because there's a huge likely that I'm gonna go too far back and hurt myself. And I've seen it happen. In fact, it happened with my father. He just didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't have the correct tempo and timing, and he just went too far back and he hurt his shoulder because he just went too far back. But more likely because that's a fixed pattern and we don't move that way. We don't push in those directions, okay? And I think you understand that now. The other challenge with that is our abs aren't contracted. And the question is, where in real life are abdominals not contracted? I mean, when we're moving and pushing and pulling, our abs are always contracted. So these 4 movements are the basic movements that we're going to use in our exercise and forever. That you're going to use, and whenever you go to the gym, you're going to notice that these machines do the same movements. And there's only really 4 different types of machines because there's only 4 different types of movements. So I'm going to go through them what they are now, and you'll see how they correlate to the workouts. So the first one is a pushing movement, right? So a lot of times, again, we're pushing the door open, whatever it might be, we're pushing, and that's a pushing pattern, it's called. In this case, you might be doing a push-up on the knees, a push-up on the toes, a push-up on the toes elevated on a box. You might be on a machine that's more cable, which is okay. A cable is okay. You still have to be careful because it could be a little dangerous, but a cable could be okay to push, right? Or a strength bar, right? So there's different strength exercises that mimic that pushing pattern, all right? So that's that pushing position, that one movement that we move in. The second one that we move in is a pulling pattern that we do all the time. And one of the things that posture-wise is why people have terrible posture a lot is because they don't readjust their shoulders and come back. So one of the things I want to teach you real fast is how to readjust your shoulders, okay? So just bring your shoulders back and down, okay? If you ever find that you're in a store or walking around or at the office and you're rolling forward, I'm going to challenge you to shift your shoulders back and then lock them in place, right? That's that shoulder exercise, but more so the pulling patterns is what I want to teach you now, because we're going to be doing this during our training. So the pulling pattern is, again, it could be a bent over hip here and pull like that. That's called a bent over row. My back is nice and straight, my hips are back, okay? It could be a pattern where I'm doing a pull down, right, which could be seated, that it is an exercise, or it could be a simple exercise where I've got dumbbells or no dumbbells and I'm pulling in this direction, okay? Now, basically that pattern, again, is something we do need to strengthen because a lot of people have lower back pain and they have stress in the upper back and they've got tightness there because they don't work and strengthen those muscles there. So that's really important that you understand that we move in that direction, so we got to strengthen those muscles in the back, right? The back of the shoulders, back of the arms. And by the way, if you want to tone this area, the shoulders and the back, that is also part of that pulling pattern, right? But the predominant muscle back there is the latissimus dorsi, that big muscle that you can see probably in the video. And what I'm doing is I'm squeezing the back using those muscles, and that's that pulling pattern. Now that's it for upper bodies, the pushing and pulling. The 2 for lower body is a hip dominant and a knee dominant exercise, which is a squat, right? How many times a day do we squat? A lot. We come down here and we squat. So it's really important to learn the right type of technique for a squatting pattern. Now I'm going to have another video that's going to go over the technique behind the exercises that you're going to go through, but pretty much in general, you want to make sure for a squatting pattern that your hips are back. Okay, I'm starting up here, my knees are slightly bent, okay, and I wouldn't do this with me. If you're watching this now, do this with me. My hands are on the hips, okay, my knees are slightly bent, I'm shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit more, okay, and my shoulders are back. My eyes are looking forward. You always want to look forward in a squatting pattern. Again, this is for everyday life and or for exercises that we'll do in the future. So shoulders are back, Okay, my hips are gonna go out, right? I'm gonna look forward. I'm not gonna go up and down with my head. That's a bad idea. It's gonna hurt your neck, and I've seen injuries. You're gonna squat down, and I would actually cross my hands here. Squat back, pretend you're sitting in a chair. So come back up. Now pretend in your head, sitting in a chair. There's a chair behind you, a toilet seat behind you. Just sit back, and you're trying to reach that seat even further, right? So hips come back more, and the knees never go past that toe, okay? Never go past that toe. And watch this, my shoulders are falling down. Readjust back up, and glutes, right? Now, tempo, 1 second up, 2 seconds down, and that'll be for another video. But just in general, we move in that squatting pattern, so it's important just to learn how to do that correctly. And there's tons of variations that you can do. You can add weight, no weight, there's so many things you can do, but that basic pattern is what I want you to know. And you know, body weight, get this down body weight first. Do not do a machine, it's not gonna be as effective. All right, so that's that pattern of lower body. The next pattern that we move in is gonna be a hip dominant, which is our torso twisting here. So basically, I'm gonna keep my back straight, right? My hands on the hips, and I'm just gonna use my hips and thrust them forward here. Okay, so hips back, right? I'm gonna feel a pulling in the hamstring, and that's okay. So do this with me, shoulder width apart. My head's aligned down, okay? And by the way, I didn't tell you, but I want you to exhale with that effort. Always exhale with the effort. Exhale, inhale down. Hips back, pulling of the hamstring. Knees are bent slightly. They're not locked, they're bent slightly. Hips, right? And I felt that. You know, I felt that in my hips, in my glutes, my butt, my thighs. And that's called a deadlift as well. There's different variations of that, doing hip thrusts on the ground and things like that. But just in general, we move in that pattern, right? Now the last one that's kind of auxiliary, that it's not considered a movement direction, but what we do is the twisting in this direction, right? And that's core based. So again, our goal is use the core and abdominals in everything that we do. And if you use a machine, you're not going to use the abdominals. You're not going to get a leaner waistline, and you're not going to burn as many calories as if you did body weight training. So that's why I wanted to show you these four movement patterns and really teach them to you, and for you to really consciously understand them so we can utilize them forever for the rest of your workouts and for the rest of workouts we do together.